Let's do it. All right, so I'm Jimmy from Superpath here with Ali Schwanke, CEO and founder of Simple Strat.
Yeah.
Cool, that's awesome. Welcome. Thank you so much for doing this. So you all are hiring a content specialist. We're going to talk specifically about that role, but maybe first, Ali, could you just kind of like give us the 30,000 foot view of Simple Strat? Who is Simple Strat, and what do you all do?
Yeah. So Simple Strat started about 5 years ago. We were really doing content for a variety of different companies at that time, kind of all over the place from industry. In the last several years, we've narrowed our focus down into B2B specifically, and then as of most recently, B2B tech. So content marketing that spans the realm of written to audio to video content. And then at that same time, we've delved deeply into the HubSpot platform. So we have a whole side of our business that brings people in through HubSpot specific needs. And then
Oh,
we've
interesting.
also and allowed them to execute on the platform. And so that's really kind of our claim to fame is really great content. And then also this really strong expertise in HubSpot.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And is the company remote or, I mean, I guess everyone's sort
Yeah,
of
yeah.
remote-ish
An
right
office
now.
today. Yeah. We actually we had an office, so I'm the only person in the office right now. But in the pandemic, we have had some people shift around. We had people move, like everybody has kind of moved around the country so far, and we only have a couple of us left in our city, so we actually are fully remote now, and just have a lease left to finish out here. So
Gotcha. And where are you based?
I'm based in Lincoln, Nebraska, but we have
Okay,
people that
cool.
are
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, cool. Well, maybe we can zoom in a little bit on the role. So you're hiring a content specialist. Um, tell us what you're looking for. Like, what is kind of like the crux of this role?
Yeah, so the content specialist is really the person that's creating the content that we're strategizing with the client. So the way that we're set up, we have account strategists that serve as more of kind of the content strategists at the high level on, what are the topic clusters that we're going to be writing about? What are the thought leadership topics that are being driven in the industry? The content specialist then comes in and helps execute on those content strategies. So whether it's, we're writing out a pillar page that then has a corresponding cluster of blog content, or we're putting together a content series that's based in video that then has repurposed content that comes out of that.
Mm,
So they're really taking, a direction, but then also we're hoping that they can step in and do some topic ideation and some editorial guidance with the right framework that we set up with our clients.
yeah, yeah. I'm glad you mentioned repurposing. I'm curious, um, is repurposing the kind of thing that happens like from time to time, or is that like a key part of the role that like you'd be repurposing stuff frequently?
Yeah, it's becoming more and more. We actually have a content repurposing and promotion specialist on our team already.
Oh,
So
interesting.
that, like, when it comes into short form content, this role we're talking about specifically is much more of the creating the long form pieces, and then we have another
Got it.
team member or two that do more of the short form. But certainly we'd love for this individual to be able to kind of step in a pinch if they can.
Yeah.
But in my ideal fit, this person would not just think written content. They'd think, okay, I wrote this blog post. What if, Ali, we purpose this into an infographic? And here's some of my ideas
Mm.
here. And so they might not be the person that executes all of that all the way, but since they wrote the long form piece, they can help kind of think about partnering with our team on that next stage too.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. I love that. Um, could we talk a little bit about just like day in the life? I mean, it sounds like a content creation heavy role. So I'm assuming that means kind of like long stretches of just like heads down, getting the work done. Is that correct? And then two, like kind of what other things are happening? Like, meetings with the account team, chatting strategy. Are they meeting with clients also?
Yeah, so the team or the role probably make up about 75% of actual content creation. So you're, writing, you're researching, you're reviewing, really spending time with words and concepts. And then 25% of that time is going to be spent with our internal team, probably processing feedback. If you have to meet with the client, it's probably going to be for an interview to gather thought leadership perspective, case study perspective, things like that. So we do, as far as like strategy goes, we do require each client to go through a strategic engagement with us. So as a content specialist, you have personas, you have research data. We
Nice.
also believe in equipping our content team with tools, so we're not going to make you just try and use all the free stuff. We're paying for
Yeah, yeah.
like SparkToro and SEMrush and TubeBuddy and all these different tools that give you a lot more of that insight that helps frame the way you write.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. There was actually a thread that popped up in our Slack community recently about someone who said like, my company wants me to do all these things, but they won't give me any money. So I just have to like keep redoing free trials with different email addresses to try to use these like basic content marketing tools, which is so frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we recently got into, have followed Rand Fishkin for quite a while, loved Whiteboard Fridays. If you research our company, one of the things you'll find is we have a tutorial series about HubSpot. And so we've executed a lot of the content things that we do internally, like for us first. And then
Oh,
we
nice.
roll it out to clients. So it's kind of nice because we do test a lot of our initial like shifts and changes on client strategy and some of the stuff we're doing. So there is a chance to kind of play and experiment with our content along the way, as well as helping clients.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. For folks who are interested, what might candidates have been up to for the last couple of years that will have prepared them well for this role?
Yeah, I think that this role is really going to be one of those people who has made their way from being a person that kind of takes content briefs and just cranks them out and does what I would consider to be a beginning copywriter would do. We're really wanting someone who's spent time aligning their content with search intent, who has spent some time digging into the why behind why a client might be interested in it, where it fits in the funnel. So, do you know that you're writing top of funnel content? Do you know what the purpose of that
Mhm.
looks like on the next step? And then, do you have some data driven decisions in your portfolio? Like, I went in and I looked at, SEMrush and I saw this, and then I looked at our analytics and I saw this. So I actually took the article in this direction because of some of those things. So we want a little bit of strategy work in there, but really have some just good things you could talk about when it comes to why you wrote what you wrote and how it performed.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I just, in my own experience, working for agencies is like just the best way to learn about content marketing because you're presented with lots of different situations, not just kind of one business all the time. And because you are not employed by them, you get a different perspective on their business. It allows you to be like a little more creative. Anyway, so that's my pitch for agency jobs. You're going to learn a ton, and it's actually really fun too because like you have the opportunity to create success for these folks, which is like such a win-win scenario, which I think is awesome.
I was gonna say one other thing that I myself I think visually, and so words are only a piece of the overall content strategy. So I've often joked that if I decided to close up shop and decide, if Civil Strat didn't exist anymore, I love creating content myself, but I don't think in words. I think of what is the overall concept, and then how often do we need an image, and where can this be translated into a
Mm,
table? So if I mean, really, if you've got those skills, you're definitely a shoe in because that's how people think when we're processing information on the internet these days. It's not just like, how do I write 1,200 words? How do I make this so that when someone reads it at the end, they go, oh, I get it. And that doesn't usually happen with just words.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. One other quick question, going backwards for a second. In the job description, it mentioned there was a line about kind of coaching from leadership. Could you just kind of briefly explain like what that looks like? Because that sort of stood out to me as like really cool kind of development opportunity.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges that we have as content creators, those of us that have advanced in our career, is you really become good at content by doing it and being coached by others. And those of us, like I had a person early in my career that really like beat into my head the power of white space. And that's not something you learned in school. That's not something you learned
Mm,
from anybody except for they did a data driven specific job around that. And then you learned it and you adopted it and saw how it benefited you and then moved on. So we incorporate like once a month coaching with our team members, and we do go over whatever's on their agenda. If they want to learn how to be a better, visual communicator, we'll tackle that. If they want to run a better or create a better content brief, we'll do that. If we want to talk about active versus passive voice and how we want to move away from passive voice, like we'll work on that. So really, it's what do they want to get out of their time with us here? We know we're not. Hopefully, they're going to be with us for a while, but we know people are always thinking about their next move, and we're going to coach to that on a monthly basis, but also like real time feedback. I myself am always shooting like a Loom video that walks through a piece and gives feedback, as opposed to just like
oh, that's awesome.
jotting out my notes. So yeah, really learning first environment is really where we're at.
That's awesome. I love that. It's funny you mentioned that because we just did an article about editing, and my number one advice was give people feedback on Loom and not just destroying their Google Docs. It's so much better.
I love them because it also adds a lot of context with my voice. in just your face. Like, I really like
Yeah.
this. And when I say this, I really like what you did here. What if we did this instead of saying, this is good, this stinks. And then all they ever read was this.
Right, right, totally. That's awesome. Is there anything about this role that you want to highlight that I didn't ask about?
I mean, I think the biggest thing, like I thought about this a little bit before our call. We're a small team. Right now we have, depending on if you incorporate some contractors in there, we've got, 8 to 10 team members, and we're really collaborative. So I think one of the things that's been cool to hear from our team is really preserving that work culture when we've gone remote. So we have a pretty avid Slack channel. There's a lot of gifts that are flying back and forth. We have, gifts on birthdays, and I mean, things that they're small random acts of just appreciation, but I think so much of that's missing in our world. And so
Yeah.
i I want you to just feel like we've got your back, and you're going to have a good experience with us. And yeah, we're always open to feedback.
Cool. I love it. That's awesome. For folks interested in applying, there's buttons to the side and below this video where you can do that. And I will also offer to folks, if you want someone to review writing samples or cover letters or anything like that ahead of time, shoot me a DM in the Slack community. I'd be happy to take a look at your stuff before you go ahead and apply. Um, Ali, thank you. Seriously, I appreciate it. Like I said, this context, like getting to know you, is just so helpful for folks on the other end of this. So we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you want to get to know us a little bit more, I mean, check out our YouTube content. You'll definitely get a feel for kind of how we talk about even HubSpot content over there. But always happy to jump on a call as well.
Cool, cool. I'll link to that for folks. Well, cool. Ali, thanks so much. Good to meet you, and take care.